You've got to hand it to the Dutch. They certainly know a thing or three when it comes to marketing to the Chinese. Whenever a flower bursts into bloom here in Beijing, you can bet your bottom quai that there'll be a load of happy-snappy people with their iPhones, Canons and Nikons shooting pictures for all they're worth. And just as the Chinese learned pretty quickly that the world loves their scruffy pandas, yes, they are scruffy for all their so-called cuteness, the Dutch use their national flower, the tulip, to woo the rubberneckers in return. Hence, it can have been no mere accident that the then Princess Beatrix of Holland gave a whole load of tulips to China way back in 1977, when China and Holland created diplomatic ties. The gardeners in charge of Zhongshan Park must have thought Christmas had come early. More tulips were added in 1996, and to celebrate a good thing, they decided to hold a tulip festival to milk it for all it was worth. And the Dutch, pleased to oblige, have been donating 300,000 bulbs every year ever since then. The park normally charges a 3 RMB entrance fee, but despite that, it's one of the least visited parks in Beijing. But come April, that all changes. They charge 10 RMB entrance, and the place is packed. Mind you, as I wait my turn in the queue, there are 2 tourists, obviously from out of town, having an argument with the ticket girl. "But we haven't come for the tulips," they're whining. "We came instead to see the normal sights of Zhongshan. Now can we please get in for 3 kuai?" But the ticket girl is obviously hardened to such entreaties, and insists they pay the same price as everyone else, while everyone else are starting to lose their patience with these cheapskates. Now, if you've ever been to the Netherlands in the spring, the chances are that you will have visited the legendary Kerkhof tulip fields, which really are a staggering sight. But if you haven't, then I guess you could be forgiven for thinking this park is pretty staggering too, albeit on a very, very, very much more diminutive scale. As we surge into the park, there's a splash of red and yellow that everyone wants to be photographed in front of. But these aren't even tulips, for God's sake. They're petunias and violas. Never mind, they're flowers, and that's what counts, it appears. And then, as we turn the corner, splashes of actual tulips greet the eye. Over 100 varieties, apparently, are grown in the park. Everyone has their phone or camera out, and it soon becomes pretty difficult navigating one's way between the jutting out bottoms along the path. But at least the signs requesting people not to trample on the flower beds appear to be having some effect. These signs are everywhere, perhaps due to the fact that a couple of weeks back, hordes of tourists at the annual Spring Expo in Jiangxi province liberally helped themselves to the myriad displays of tulips on show, decimating the entire place. It's almost as if these people have never seen a tulip in their lives before. Or maybe they finally found an excuse to try out their zoom lenses on cameras they bought ages back and then couldn't quite work out what to do with them. Whatever the reason, there's certainly more interest in the 2-color tulips, in particular the red and yellow ones. Could this be because they are the national colors? Perhaps, but certainly they are very attractive, meticulously arranged against a backdrop of 1,000-year-old cypress trees. The subtle shades of the red turning to white varieties are equally stunning, though they get much less attention. The problem, if indeed problem is the right word, is that there are almost too many of this wonderful flower, and tulip fatigue is beginning to set in, though the double varieties are certainly eye-catching even if they are past their prime. Yet again a splash of red and yellow tulips takes centre stage amongst other of their peers. Unless anyone actually cares what it is they're actually gawping at, there are a few rather niggardly signs listing some of the varieties on show, but no one pays them the slightest attention. The problem is that with Beijing's dry climate, today the humidity level barely touches 20%, the tulip season lasts only a fraction of the time it does in Europe, with the result that if you blink, you're likely to miss the best shows. And we all know that there is nothing as sad-looking as a tulip long past its prime. But worry not, for Zhongshan is not just famous for its tulips, even if this is the Tulip Festival. Equally impressive, in a totally different way, are displays of buddleia which give out a sweet scent to the passers-by. There are even a few specimens of peach and plum blossom still out in the more shaded areas, where they've come into bloom slightly later than their colleagues in sunnier climes. But to my eye, even if this is tulip and buddleia time, What is even more impressive is the display of peonies, which are having to share centre stage with their floral rivals. They're wonderful, and to my mind they simply have to be the best-loved perennials of all time. Now, of course, along with plum blossom, the peony is a traditional floral symbol of China, where the peony subfruticosa is called mudan. It's also known as fuguihua, meaning flower of riches and honor, or huawang, king of the flowers, and is widely used symbolically in Chinese art. The colours stretch from red through to white with everything in between. Quite stunning. And while most are still snapping away with their cameras and selfie sticks, I come across an artist who is actually sat in front of a peony that he is doing a wonderful job of copying, though why he doesn't just take a photograph of it and copy that, I'm afraid I have no idea. Lest one forgets, however, Zhongshan Park was formerly the altar in the Ming and Qing dynasties, where emperors at that time offered sacrifices respectively to the god of land and the god of grain every February and August in the lunar calendar. But it appears that the great unwashed have little time for history or anything that doesn't have flowers bursting out in profusion. The area around the square-shaped altar of land and harvest is virtually empty, and those that have ventured into this corner of the park have obviously either lost their way or are looking for yet more varieties of plants to take shots of. After all, having one's photo taken with a piece of real history isn't nearly as exciting as sticking one's head through a cardboard cutout for yet another picture op, with a graceless-looking windmill as a backdrop, is it? My, those marketers from the Dutch Tourist Board must be rubbing their hands with glee. But a cute little pussycat is not so impressed. He's obviously seen it all before, 1,000 times over. Humans, you can see him thinking, as he stifles yet another yawn before closing his eyes and dreaming of, well, whatever it is that bored-looking moggies dream about when they have a surfeit of time on their hands.